Hey, Christopher, great to see you. How are you today? I like to have, it looks like we're going to have a bit of a smaller group today. So why don't you turn on your mic, turn on your video, and instead of this being me talking at you, we can talk together. Does that sound like something you could do? Could you give me a one for a yes, or a two for a no? Hmm, I'll wait a little longer. You sure? This is really going to be fun. This is going to be a really, really good webinar. And I do encourage you that it will be out on YouTube sometime tomorrow, as my folks will put it up and put it out there on YouTube, and you can follow that. And or you can go to gagosiangroup.com, and there's a whole series of evergreen out there. But I'd like to welcome you again. Thank you so much for coming to be with me today. And let's just consider this just a Tuesday afternoon wherever you're from. Could be evening, morning, what have you, later afternoon. But let's just consider this a time to just to be together and to chat, whether we're in a comfortable place, having a conversation. So let me ask you a question, and for the greater participants out there who will be watching us out on YouTube and out on the Gagosian Group website, what intrigued you? What brought you here? What brought you to this moment uh, to spend this time? Those are things that you want to um, really begin to ask yourself. What is it that drew you to this particular webinar? Was it the topic? Was it you'd been out looking at other videos and it caught your eye? Um, you're on the mailing list somehow, or someone posted it to you. But in any case, let me begin. My name is Ron Gagosian. I am uh, the founder of the Gagosian Group, which really is nothing important, believe me. But that's just the moniker that the flagship that we are under here. And so from that, let me begin. And in doing so, today's webinar is called The Invisible Gap. And it's not like say someone loses a tooth. It's similar, but not exactly in that level of um, where it's very apparent, where you can actually see the gap, or you go out to Utah, southwestern Utah, out to the St. George area, and you look up at those beautiful red rock mountains, and you can see as the sun sets with the purples and the blues and the oranges of the sky, or at the sunset, and you see the gaps in those mountain ranges. It's really stunning, but it's not that apparent. And so that's the example that I wanted to give you. So today we're talking about that invisible gap. As obvious as that may sound and be, we do see these gaps that come about in our business life, in our personal life, and we're here to talk about that. Um, this is just not a psychotherapeutic time, but it is really anchored in really modern day neuroscience that provides an opportunity for us to take a look at how we actually integrate what we know and what we believe and what makes us consistent, what drives us, what keeps us with an integrous line, I guess a line of defense for us. You know, people say, well, I'm really an honest person. Wonderful. That's fabulous. Really, honestly. You know, you really don't want to hang out with too many bank robbers, you know, or people that really do cruel things, I suppose. But really, do you have a level of integrity with yourself? And that's what's really, really at the core and the heart today. So, most people don't have a lack of an effort problem, they have a gap they really can't see. Let me say that again. Most people don't have a lack of an effort problem, but they have a gap that they can't see that holds them back. And it holds them back to a particular place where, you know, they can't see it. And those are the hardest gaps to bridge, to overcome, to do the evil. Some people try to do it the evil Knievel. If you remember from 30, 40, 50 years ago, Evil Knievel tried to ride his motorcycle up, at least he threatened that he would. He never did it, but then he would ride his motorcycle at top speed and try to cross the Grand Canyon. I know he had several jump attempts and broke many, many, many bones in his body, and he suffered a lot of pain for trying to jump over things with his motorcycle at a very great speed. That's not the kind of closing the gap we're talking about. But some people do experience a lot of pain. That's a kind of an interesting metaphor that I used right there. But if it works and if it hit me. I hope it hit you too. So what we want to do in today's uh, our time together is that we want to define what the invisible is. That invisible is really a space between where you are and where you know you could be. And so let me ask the question, since we're not interactive here and I can't see you nor can I hear you, but I want to ask you a deep question. Put a 1 in your little Zoom box in your head if you actually do notice a space. I'll let you think about that. Do you have an invisible gap? Do you see it of where you are and where you know you could be, but you can't seem to make it over? You can't bridge over. And is that somehow maybe holding you back? Or is it not allowing you to reach certain dreams or to identify with what you know? And I'm just going to leave it at that. To to identify with what you know about you in your level of identity. So, Christopher, let me break this down. Knowledge is execution. Knowledge is execution. Intention is consistency, and actions drive results. People have a lot of knowledge these days. In fact, we have probably more knowledge today in modern society than we had 50 years ago when we just had payphones, rotary telephones, and barely a fax machine or a photocopier. This is talking all pre micro computer technology. It's amazing the amount of information that we now have at our literal fingertips that we can access. So it's really, I don't believe it's a knowledge problem. And to more of an extent, it becomes then an execution problem. And then if execution becomes inconsistent, it really becomes what is behind the intentions, what's behind it. And so there could be a gap there between intention and consistency. Do you? Do you? And I don't know you, but I'm just poking here. Um, do you have, and can you say to yourself in the quiet of your room there, can you actually say that you're honest with yourself about what it is that you want to do and how you do it and how you get up and execute based on the knowledge that you have and your good intentions? So after that, it's really about action and the momentum, and then the momentum drives results. So those are the missing pieces, the gaps of it as it's broken down. So there's there's also an additional piece that ties into that theme. It's about energy, thinking, decisions, and what? Energy, thinking, decisions, and really the momentum. So the energy is how you cast yourself to yourself. It's really your level of thinking. Do you have a level of thinking that is in a place where you're not moving towards anything? Is it that you are that person that doesn't is not keeping promises to yourself and therefore goals are not being met? Do you see a level of identity that might be a gap issue? Because that will also hold you back from momentum. So, why do people stay stuck? They focus on results, more knowledge, which I consider is capacity. So, knowledge and capacity are is sort of a term that's used a lot now in lieu of the word knowledge, but they really mean the same thing. So, do you focus on results and less about the input and what you're actually trying to understand and what you're trying to drive at? Do you try to do more instead of think better? Do you ignore your level of energy? And really, and this one is a tough one. Do you protect your level of thinking? That's important because it could be the relationships that you keep. It could be the your business associates. It could be, someone at work. It could be people that are actually not so nice. And they're actually cruel in the way in which they treat you or treat me out in either the business world, because there's a lot of ego, we know that, and there are people that have, it's for instance, we're at a cocktail party or we're at a meeting, and I walk up and I say, "Hey, Christopher, look at your badge," or introduce myself and say, "Hey, my name is Ron," and you notice a level of energy that goes on. Well, those are times where you need to assess. So you're bridging, you're finding that gap. That's an invisible gap as well. And you then have to say, hey, is this a place that I want to be? Is this a conversation based on the cues and the verbal signals that you're picking up? So does that become a busy moment for you? And then you can't move forward, because I would say that could be very indicative of, in that small scenario, that could be indicative of the way in which one handles situations in work relationships, uh, business relationships, personal relationships, marital relationships. It's all intertwined because the identity, excuse me, it's warm here. Um, and that all fits together. It's really, really an amazing way in which our identity floats between our various companion worlds within all of our different um, meshed relationships. So let me ask you this, and I'm going to go through a series of questions here as I'm, looking into the camera. I want you to really look into yourself, and I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can react internally. So some people react to life, and others operate with intention. So I'm going to then say, call out two terms, and you can see the gap inside. Again, so some people react to life, and others operate with intention. So would you consider yourself a drifter or an operator? Most people consume information, very few create outcomes. Most people consume information, very few create outcomes, and that's outcomes for yourself. Because if you're not driving outcomes for yourself, it's not going to translate in the 9 to 5 job. It's not going to translate into your entrepreneurial type of endeavors or what have you, or even personal relationships. And so, are you a consumer or a creator? Are you a consumer of information, or do you create outcomes? Third, motivation fades and identity driven discipline stays. Motivation fades, identity driven discipline stays. So are you motivated? Listen to the next one. Listen to the word on the other side of the gap. This is very powerful. Are you motivated or are you disciplined? Disciplined. Number 4, overthinking keeps you stuck. Overthinking keeps you stuck, and decisions create movement. Are you an overthinker or decider? Starting is easy. Starting is easy. Building consistently is rare. You see a lot of people online buying a lot of things because people are really, really good these days in the information technology highway. It's a I wouldn't even call it a land office business. I would call it scale to wealth, like we've never seen before, about identity and AI. Those today that are creating wealth, real wealth, are involved in identity and AI, similar to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, where we were really an agrarian society in Europe and then into the United States and North America. That which we farmed, we produced, we ate it, and we went to bed, as compared to going to a shop and buying it, or a grocery or a market and buying it. And then we get into the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution creates wealth. You had the JP Morgans, you had the Rockefellers, you had the Rothschilds, you have just from Europe to uh, the Middle East to America and North America, you have all of that. And then you have the great part of the 20th century where you had technology that was exploding post World War I, from automobiles to aircraft. Combustible engines became where you could, you know, barely fly with the breeze with a single propeller. You were flying with a single or multiple propellered airplane, at 25,000 feet, freezing your buns off, dropping bombs over somebody. And then we get into the 50s and the 60s, the 70s. And then what did we get when we got to the 80s? We came into another level of wealth where people were scaling because we came into what? We became into the computer age, microcomputing, the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates of the world, and everybody associated with that, from Europe to the Silicon Valley to New York and every part in between. And now we're at a particular place where we've gone from, my friends in the Silicon Valley say, gone from a eyeball type of technology where you're sitting in front of a computer with a screen. You've gone to a listening type of technology where you're using your ears. And now we're using our mind to generate wealth in order to scale. And how do we scale very efficiently and quickly and with leverage? We do that with AI now. It's fascinating, and that really truly is the heart of where we are right now. And so information is speeding up. The amount of information to be consumed is beyond levels that I've never seen. I've never had this amount, but I seem to be able to keep up, and I'm doing well in that realm. But there's also this other area that I keep mentioning, the area of identity plus AI. So we're able to scale, to find the bridge, move across, and then be able to create whatever we want in life. And it is the future now, and it's going to be increasingly so over time, especially within the next 3 to 5 years and into the next decade. So, are you a reactor or are you a leader? A reactor or a leader? In other words, are you the reacting aspect of life, that are you into the reacting part of life where it keeps you behind? Or are you leading your day, and are you preparing ahead? That's what leaders do. A lot of people in today's society are reactors. They react with the evening news. They're constantly tuned into their social media, where the social media is actually causing them to have these visceral emotional reactions. And there is a level of addiction, unfortunately, that goes in with that. And then lastly, the seventh is inconsistency. Inconsistency breaks your momentum, and consistency of that will compound it. So, are you inconsistent or are you consistent? So, as I'm looking through some of my notes, I want to be able to formulate some of this now and give you some anchors and give you something tangible to go through. I mean, I've asked you 7 questions, each with a bridge question in the middle, and you can have all of this out on the website at gagosiangroup.com. You can see this all again, and you can hear it as many times as you want, and just play it on YouTube. So here are the 3 anchors that I want to give to you that are really, really key. You need to protect your energy. You need to sharpen your thinking, and you need to commit to small, consistent decisions. You need to protect your energy. You need to sharpen your thinking, and you need to commit to small, consistent decisions. So how do you protect your energy? You have to protect your energy based on your relationships. You have to protect your energy in how you speak and how you present yourself and actually what you hear. And you have to sharpen your thinking because you need to read. One way that, or listen, that's another way, whether it's with Audible. I highly suggest you join a book club with a professional group of people that, depending on what it is of your interest, if it's business, if it's art, if it's science, whatever, I mean, whatever, history, these are things that will expand your mind and it'll expand your thinking and it'll sharpen your thinking. And what you'll say, well, I don't really understand how one book um, actually gives me perspective in some of my daily work. And I just for this and on record, since middle December, I have read 7 books, and I'm currently in my 8th book. Yeah. And these are important things that you have to do. A lot of people go to college and they barely read their books, and as soon as they get out of college, they completely stop reading for the next 30 or 40 years. The only thing they read maybe are the headlines or Instagram captions or Facebook captions. And that's about the extent of what they read. And that's not going to get you to and across the bridge of life. So here's the bridge to action. So if this is landing for you, Christopher, then you're already seeing the gaps. And that's not a personal thing. That's not being mean. That's not, saying you have a problem or you're wrong. I'm just saying that if you're seeing that through these particular steps, then you're noticing. And you should be seeing some gaps. We all see the gaps. If I was sitting on the other side, I mean, I see gaps myself. Unfortunately, um, we're human and we actually move to a beat. We have our own cadence, and we have an opportunity now to see what that looks like, depending on what age you are, and no matter where you're at and what station in life you're at, you actually have that ability now to have that. So you have here today, and it's been an absolute pleasure for me. I'm actually in a very, very pleasant and excited mode at the same time. I want you to know that the next step is very, very simple. If you want help closing what we've talked about today and closing that gap, that invisible gap that may or may not be fully illuminated. It may be dark a little bit further out into the distance, but you actually have some light now that you've seen and that you've picked up today. Then you can book a clarity call. You can, it's a no obligation 45-minute call. Go to the website, gagosiangroup.com, and book the time, and I'll look forward to getting together with you. And then we'll look at where you are, where you want to go, and what's actually in the way. So there's another option. And there's an invitation for you, and for others that will be viewing this. If you're not ready for that, and I'm very serious, if you're not ready for that, stay connected, keep learning, and keep applying some of these principles or all of these principles. Is what I've put up for you today and what we've talked about, unfortunately not talked with you, but to you, or as my friends in South Africa say, at you. We'll talk at you. Um, it always makes me giggle. You you have that option. Stay connected with me. Drop me a line. You can reach me at ron@gagosiangroup.com. You can follow me on Instagram. You can DM me, Facebook Business. So we are here, and I want you to just leave with this. Leave with this. As we take a breath and just really, we've talked through a lot over the last 20 some odd minutes. You don't need more information, Christopher. You really don't. And for those of you who are going to be watching this, you don't need more information. You don't need more capacity, possibly on some structural things. I'll grant you that. But what you need alignment between who you are and how you operate. See, there's the gap. There's that invisible gap. You need alignment between who you are and how you operate, because your operation and how you operate is really the metrics. If you have no metrics, you can't evaluate yourself really well, except by the lack of results. So, what I want to do is I want to thank you. I'm available to you. I want to be able to have, I love these kind of small, intimate settings. They're really great. And so thank you. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your time. I look forward to meeting you someday and having an opportunity to chat with you. And again, if you have any questions or concerns you want to explore further, please drop me a line and let me know or schedule a time. But stay connected. Stay connected with this process and stay connected with yourself. And as you go along, I hope and I pray that you're able to identify those invisible gaps that will take you and move you across and provide some incredible results for your life, whether that's in your relationships, your health, your wealth, your job, or new endeavors. New endeavors. You may be transitioning. So, with that, I wish you the best. Have a lovely afternoon, wonderful evening, and we'll see you along the way. Thank you for joining us. Good day.